always go to those negative experiences, man, but there's so much positive. Just like when we look at the world, if I ask you what's the world like, people tend to point to the negatives. Oh, there's a war in Ukraine that could lead to nuclear war, and there's this disease that can wipe out all of humanity. And anybody notice the flowers? They're pretty cool. You ever go to the beach and see how pretty it is? There's so much beauty. There's so much beauty in the world. And that's the kind of stuff that makes it all worthwhile. What's so great about humanity? There's a lot. But all this, we'll fold our arms and scratch our chins and say, but all this evil that humans have done. Yeah, but everything beautiful that's been done has also been done by humans. Every painting, every act of kindness. But we don't see those things because we go right to the negative. So taking from that and going back to what you were saying, we exaggerate in these two directions. I hate the phrase over-exaggerate, because to exaggerate is to go overboard, so don't ever say that, to over-exaggerate. But we exaggerate in the sense that we go too far. We also exaggerate in the sense that we minimize. So that's the idea, you don't know what this is, you haven't been there yet. But then we also exaggerate in the sense of how big was that fish? It was that big, Or even with language, when we say things like, oh, I love buffalo wings. You really love them, though. Because they're silly examples, but I hope you get the idea that we exaggerate, we go too far, we also understate as well. I don't know if you ever enjoyed someone's company, like a friend, and you're just yeah, they're cool. But your favorite person to hang out with. You're yeah, they're right though. Or you exaggerate too much. So do you enjoy talking? Oh yeah, you're my favorite person to talk to. 15th on the list. Assuming you have a list. But this is so weird. I was just thinking, the reason that this quote's in red is because I'm taking it out for next year. After we talk about things, I go through and I start taking out, marking the ones in red, so when I look at the PowerPoint next year, I remember, oh, that's right, I was going to take that one out. But I know I'm struggling with it for some reason. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. It connects to that one. I still feel like I have anything to say about it. I said everything I was going to say earlier. I don't want to take up a bunch of time. Yeah, what's the absurdist philosopher? So absurdism is a philosophy that essentially is exactly what it sounds like. It's the idea that all of existence is absurd. The fact that we exist is just like a weird cosmic accident. Chemicals came together by complete accident, and then here we are. And we've developed consciousness as a weird accident as well. And consciousness is such an incredibly deep idea that we dismiss because it's so native to our existence. Meaning that if I asked you, can you imagine what it's like to be unconscious, not conscious of yourself? It's impossible to do. The very fact of me asking that question requires you to dig into your own consciousness, your own self-awareness. And yet, self-awareness is not tied really to much that's good. If I'm asking you, for example, to dig into your early childhood experiences to find out why you are the way that you are, what are some of the kinds of things that we're gonna think of? They don't have to be specific to you, but what are the kinds of things that people would think of if I asked you to do that? What's that? If I asked you, why are you the way that you are today, what are some of the early childhood experiences that formed you and shaped you to make you the person that you are today?
The trauma.
So exactly, we're going to go straight to the trauma. But are you just this basket of trauma walking around and shaking and terrified of the world? Some people are. I know who they are. But also there's a lot of really positive things in your past, in your early childhood, that made you who you are today. And all of the things that you enjoy, the things that make you happy, the things that kind of make all this suffering worthwhile probably has its roots in those early childhood experiences. I was just talking to one of my former students yesterday. He came by to visit, and he's a child therapist right now. And it's really interesting because he was that basket of nerves that kind of wandered around the world. And I spent a lot of time talking with him. And when he was a student, and then of course afterwards, and all of a sudden he was just gone. I'm like, oh shit. He's on that edge. then he emerged after like a year or so, and he just said, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, but I'm back in he's in school finishing his stuff, and he visited yesterday. He says that's what he is, a child therapist." And it's interesting to see somebody who I knew back then talk the way that he talks now, and trying to analyze people. But anyway, he was talking about those positive experiences as well that shape who we are today. And we always go to those negative experiences, man, but there's so much positive. Just like when we look at the world, if I ask you what's the world like, people tend to point to the negatives. Oh, there's a war in Ukraine that could lead to nuclear war, and there's this disease that could wipe out all of humanity. And anybody notice the flowers? They're pretty cool. You ever go to the beach and see how pretty it is? There's so much beauty. There's so much beauty in the world. And that's the kind of stuff that makes it all worthwhile. What's so great about humanity? There's a lot. But all this, we fold our arms and scratch our chins and say, but all this evil that humans have done. Yeah, but everything beautiful that's been done has also been done by humans. Every painting, every act of kindness. But we don't see those things because we go right to the negative. There's this wonderful Instagram account I follow called Global Positive News. And that's exactly what it is. It's just like really positive stories, really neat things that don't make it into the mainstream news. And there's a lot of really positive things going on in the world. And you don't even need a news service to tell you that. You just look around. And so the world is like that, where the bad things catch our attention. Rightfully so, because they can create some danger. It's just like if you go into the ocean, like I said, and sometimes out scripts, the water is so clear. It really, you can look down, you can see the sand underneath you, you can see the fish swimming around. And you can see the stingray. And anybody ever gotten stung by a stingray before? You know what you're supposed to do if you get stung by a stingray? What's that?
Piss.
You're supposed to pee on it. Yeah. So if your friend gets stung by a stingray, make sure you pee on their foot. It doesn't do anything for the sting, by the way. That's an old wives' tale. It does nothing to cure them, but it's kind of funny. Just pissed on your friend for no good reason. You can always hold it over their heads. But when you see them, I've stepped on them many times. And then they just kind of take off. If you ever see these things moving through the water, it's that's really pretty. The way that they move, it's beautiful. And how they'll go through a school of fish, and somehow the school of fish knows to open up as the stingray leaves, and then they close back up. And there's this incredible harmony and music to all of it. Or you can focus on the time that you got stung by the stingray. I was out there a few months ago. I think I mentioned this part. There was an orca whale, or I don't think they're orcas, they're sharks, right? From SeaWorld, Camus, whatever those things are. There was a wild one out in the water. And my friend was like, well, I'm going to shore. He didn't want to be out there. And I'm talking from me to the glass is how close it was. And my friend was like, I'm going to shore. I'm like, I'm going to hang out. And he's like, dude, I think it'll kill you. I'm like, I don't think so. It's really pretty. You see this thing swimming around out there. Now, I knew something he didn't know, which is that there's never been a single report of one of those things attacking a human in the wild. They'll kill their trainers at SeaWorld, but they don't attack people in the wild. So he was too afraid to enjoy this thing. You see dolphins out there? I was out there one time and there were these big waves, and the seals are playing in the waves. As the wave is coming in, you can see the seal inside the wave, following it through. That looks really cool, man. I don't want to be in the wave with that seal because then it's going to land on me and those things are heavy. But they're really neat things. Or we can focus on the negative. So maybe you might say that, well, you have an exaggerated idea of the beauty of it because you don't understand the danger of it. Maybe. Or maybe it's the other direction as well. We can't understand the beauty of or appreciate the beauty of something because we have an exaggerated idea of the danger of it. I guess it's a decision about which way you want to live. You want to live safely, or you want to live with recognizing the incredible beauty of so many of the things that are around us. That doesn't mean that we ignore the negative. Of course it's there. And we should try to make things better. But man, there's so much beauty, maybe we should enjoy some of that as well. If you guys are all right, the things that we don't know, we exaggerate. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? I never answered your question about what an absurdist philosopher is. An absurdist philosopher is somebody who believes that existence itself is absurd. I started to begin, and I got off on consciousness. Anyway, so Camus believes that existence is absurd, and that there's no good reason for it, and that as humans, because we're conscious, we're self-conscious, we're looking for meaning and purpose in things. And he says there is no meaning, there is no purpose. But you can still invent one for yourself. He's got this great essay called The Myth of Sisyphus.